What the study says.
Ever, walked into a room and just completely blanked on why you went in there? Or maybe you meet someone new and their name just sort of vanishes a second later.
Yeah, it happens. And it's easy to get that little jolt of worry, right? Thinking, okay, is this just a senior moment or is it something more serious starting?
But what if protecting your brain, from the aging process wasn't about some complicated puzzle or like expensive pills?
What if it was something really simple, something accessible, maybe even something something your body inherently knows how to do?
Welcome back to What the Study Says. I'm Dr. Kai.
And I'm Dr. May.
Today, we're diving deep into some, honestly, pretty groundbreaking research. It's a comprehensive 2025 review from the very prestigious journal, The Lancet.
Right. The paper's called Neuroprotective Mechanisms of Exercise and the Importance of Fitness for Healthy Brain Aging. And it's not just theory. It really unpacks the powerful science behind how physical activity keeps your brain fit too.
How it actively protects, sustains, and maybe even helps, rejuvenate your brain.
Exactly. So our mission today is to kind of cut through all the noise, give you the key takeaways from this really cutting-edge review.
Think of it as maybe a shortcut, a way to get informed about how simple movements can help build a stronger cognitive future, potentially delaying that decline many of us worry about.
Okay, so let's start by setting the stage. What actually happens inside our brains as the years go by?
Well, we know aging is, unfortunately, the single biggest risk factor for things like Alzheimer's. And it often comes with, a gradual dip in our cognitive abilities.
And it's important to make a distinction here. There's what we call normative aging, that sort of slow, expected decline in memory or reasoning. It can start surprisingly early, actually, sometimes early adulthood, but it tends to speed up after 65.
And then there's pathological aging, which is quite different. That's a much faster deterioration, the kind that really impacts daily life.
Right. And, the review really emphasizes it's not just about your age. Our lifestyles play a huge role. Being sedentary, things like high blood pressure, diabetes, other chronic conditions, they can really accelerate this whole process.
So those factors can kind of push us from normal aging towards maybe mild cognitive impairment and then potentially towards dementia.
Precisely. So while getting older is, inevitable, how our brain ages seems heavily influenced by how we actually live our lives.
But here's where it gets really interesting and I think quite empowering. It's this concept of cognitive reserve.
Ah, yes, the brain's resilience fund.
Exactly. Like imagine every time you challenge your brain, learn something new, connect with people, or, and this is key for today, get physically active, you're making a deposit.
And this reserve helps explain why some people stay incredibly sharp deep into old age, even if maybe their brain scans show some physical changes.
And this Lancet review really hammers home that exercise is one of the most powerful ways to build up that reserve.
That's right. The core finding is pretty clear. Regular physical activity and having good cardiorespiratory fitness CRF that can significantly cut your risk of cognitive impairment and dementia.
It's almost like exercise acts as your brain's personal bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
Fending off different threats.
A multi-tool bodyguard. Yeah, it works in several ways. So the review zeroes in on 3 key neuroprotective mechanisms.
Okay, what are they?
First, exercise really improves cerebral blood flow, getting blood to the brain. Second, it's a powerful anti-inflammatory. And third, it boosts neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and rewire itself.
Okay, let's unpack that first one. Brain volume and cerebral blood flow, CBF. So CBF is like the brain's delivery service.
Exactly. It's constantly bringing oxygen, nutrients, those important neurotrophins to all your brain cells. Even, a brief interruption in that flow can cause real damage, even neuronal death.
And exercise helps this system.
It directly boosts it. Both the single workout that's acute exercise and regular chronic exercise significantly increase blood flow, especially to key areas like the hippocampus.
The memory hub.
The memory hub, right. And this isn't just temporary. It actually correlates with improvements in your overall fitness, your CRF.
And this applies across different age groups.
Yes, that's what's compelling. We see this benefit in younger adults, middle-aged folks, right up to people in their 80s. And importantly, even in those already experiencing some mild cognitive impairment, exercise seems to help create compounds that literally relax and widen the brain's blood vessels.
Wow. Okay, so better blood flow is huge. But what about brain volume itself? Because we know brains tend to shrink a bit with age, especially that hippocampus area.
Right, and that shrinkage is unfortunately linked to a higher risk of accelerated cognitive decline. But here's the really good news. Exercise actively fights against this brain shrinkage.
It fights shrinkage. How?
Well, the meta-analyses looked at many studies, and they unanimously found that overall hippocampal volume is maintained or even slightly increased with consistent exercise.
Maintained. That's significant.
It really is. And there's this fascinating detail. One study showed just 6 weeks of exercise-boosted hippocampal volume in previously sedentary adults.
Only 6 weeks. That's fast.
Super fast response.
Yeah.
But, and this is the catch, if they stopped exercising, those gains pretty much disappeared 6 weeks later.
Ah, so consistency is key. You can't just bank it and forget it.
Exactly. It's a continuous investment. And big long-term studies like the Generation 100 study, that was a 5-year intervention, confirmed that keeping your fitness levels high protects against that brain volume loss over time. It maintains the structure.
Okay, so optimizing blood flow, maintaining volume.
Yeah.
What was the second mechanism? Inflammation.
Right. Battling inflammation and cellular damage. As we age, the brain's immune system can sometimes get stuck in this state of chronic, low-grade inflammation. We call it inflammaging.
Inflammaging. I like that term.
It describes it well. Basically, the brain's immune cells, microglia, can start overproducing these pro-inflammatory signals that end up harming neurons.
So exercise helps dial that back, like an internal anti-inflammatory.
Precisely. It helps restore balance. And it goes even deeper, affecting the mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your brain cells.
Neurons need a ton of energy, right?
Huge energy demand. They rely heavily on mitochondria. But aging can impair these power plants, leading to oxidative damage. Plus, there's calcium regulation. Calcium's vital, but if it gets dysregulated with age, it can build up and become toxic to cells' excitotoxicity.
And these things are linked, mitochondria and the calcium?
Yes, there's a harmful cycle. Impaired mitochondria make the calcium problem worse. But exercise steps in here too. It boosts the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
The brain fertilizer.
Yeah, or like brain-growing magic dust, maybe. BDNF helps protect cells from that calcium overload and actually boosts mitochondrial capacity.
That's amazing. And you mentioned something about genetics, microRNAs.
Right. Exercise also seems to influence these microRNAs. They act like tiny dimmer switches for genes, and exercise can flip them in ways that promote neurogenesis, new brain cell growth, and general brain health.
Okay, this is getting really complex at the cellular level. What about those zombie cells you hear about? Senescent cells.
Yes, cellular senescence. These cells stop dividing but hang around, causing trouble, contributing to inflammation and degeneration. And here's something really exciting from the review. Exercise has been shown to actually reduce circulating biomarkers of these senescent cells in humans.
So exercise might literally help clear out these damaging zombie cells.
The evidence points that way. It suggests exercise helps refresh the brain's whole environment. It's pretty remarkable.
Okay, mechanism 3, brain plasticity and neurogenesis. Plasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt, right?
Exactly. Its incredible lifelong capacity to rewire itself for learning, recovery, processing new stuff. It includes structural changes, new connections, even new neurons through adult neurogenesis, and functional changes, like making existing connections stronger or weaker.
And exercise boosts this rewiring.
It does. Even a single session can temporarily change key brain chemicals like GABA and glutamate in ways that enhance the brain's ability to form new connections, synaptic plasticity. Regular activity strengthens connections, especially in areas like the motor cortex.
But the really big one is adult neurogenesis, growing new brain cells. Does that really happen? And does exercise help?
Yes, it happens mainly in the hippocampus, that memory center, and it's crucial for learning and memory. This process does decline with age, unfortunately.
But exercise can boost it, even later in life.
Absolutely. The review calls exercise one of the strongest physiological enhancers of neurogenesis we know of. Studies show that even starting moderate endurance exercise later in life, say for a year, can increase hippocampal size and improve spatial memory in older adults.
And that's linked back to BDNF again.
Largely, yes. BDNF levels tend to drop with age, contributing to cognitive decline. Exercise boosts BDNF. Now, BDNF itself doesn't easily cross the blood-brain barrier, so the effects might be indirect, but the link is strong. It's like giving your brain a growth signal.
This is incredible. It feels like exercise is triggering all these internal repair and growth systems.
It really is, which leads us perfectly into the next layer. The molecular elixirs, these fascinating things called Exerkines.
Exerkines. Okay, what are those?
They're signaling molecules, hormones, proteins, metabolites, all sorts of things released from different tissues when you exercise. Muscles, liver, fat tissue, Even blood platelets release them.
And they travel to the brain.
Yes, and here's a key point. Exercise seems to make the blood-brain barrier slightly more permeable in a good way. It opens the gates just enough to let more of these beneficial exerkines get into the brain efficiently.
So your working muscles are actually sending helpful messages to your brain.
Exactly. Signals from your active body telling your brain essentially, hey, time to get healthier, adapt, protect yourself.
Can you give some examples? What do these exerkines do?
Sure. There's irisin, released from muscle. It's really exciting because it crosses into the brain and seems to directly improve synaptic plasticity, cognition, maybe even new neuron formation.
Wow. What else?
FGF21 from the liver. It helps with insulin sensitivity, boosts mitochondria, reduces oxidative stress, and seems to enhance cognition. Cathepsin B, another one from muscle, seems crucial for clearing waste in the brain and correlates with better memory.
So many different players.
Loads. There's clofo, an anti-aging protein. Exercise boosts its levels. Adiponectin from fat tissue linked to neurogenesis and mood. Even platelet factor 4, released when platelets are activated by exercise, seems to promote hippocampal neurogenesis. And then you have metabolites like lactate, which aren't just waste products. They can be fuel and neuroprotective agents for the brain.
It's like exercise unlocks this whole internal pharmacy that sends targeted medicine straight to the brain.
That's a great analogy. It highlights how deeply interconnected everything is. And the connections, they get even more surprising. We need to talk about the gut-brain axis and even the oral-brain axis.
Wait, my gut and my mouth. They're involved in brain aging too.
Absolutely. Let's start with the gut microbiota, those trillions of microbes in your digestive system. Regular moderate exercise is shown to enhance the diversity and stability of your gut bacteria.
And a healthier gut means a healthier brain.
The links are becoming clearer. A healthier gut microbiome supports better metabolic health, yes, but also cognitive health. People with higher fitness levels generally have a more diverse, beneficial gut environment.
Okay, that's fascinating. What about the mouth connection?
The oral microbiome. This is a newer area, but evidence is emerging linking oral health or lack thereof to brain health. Exercise has actually been shown to improve the oral microbiome profile in older adults.
So.
The changes seen with exercise are often the opposite of the changes seen in people with neurological disorders. This suggests a protective effect. The idea is that unhealthy bacteria from, say, gum disease can trigger inflammation that impacts the brain, maybe directly or indirectly.
So taking care of your teeth might actually be helping your brain long-term too.
It increasingly looks that way. It all adds to the picture of whole-body health supporting brain health.
Okay, so after exploring all this incredible science, blood flow, inflammation, plasticity, exerkines, gut health, what's the big takeaway? What does this mean for, everyday life?
Well, the Lancet review makes a very strong public health argument. The evidence is solid. We should be integrating endurance exercise, the kind that boosts your cardiorespiratory fitness, into public health strategies as a core preventative measure against age-related cognitive decline.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it brings up the big question. How much exercise? And what kind? The WA guidelines mention 150 minutes moderate or 75 minutes vigorous activity a week.
Right, but let's be honest. The review points out that 70 to 90% of people globally aren't meeting those guidelines. It feels like a big ask for many.
Okay, so is there any wiggle room? Or is it all or nothing?
Here's where it gets really interesting and maybe more manageable for people. There's a powerful punchline here. Large studies are showing that you can actually get substantial health benefits with less physical activity if the intensity is high.
Less time, but higher intensity.
Exactly. Small amounts of genuinely high-intensity activity often seem to be more effective for many key health outcomes, including brain health, than spending hours doing low to moderate exercise.
Can you give an example? How little are we talking?
Think something like maybe 30 minutes total per week, but broken up into short, really intense bursts across several days. Like a few hard sprints, really pushing it up some stairs, or a quick, vigorous circuit. That level of intensity, even in small doses, seems incredibly beneficial.
That sounds much more achievable for a lot of people, short bursts of hard work.
It does, doesn't it? And this feeds into where personalized health is going. With multiomics integrating all kinds of biological data and AI, we're moving towards being able to give much more tailored exercise advice.
How would that work?
Imagine AI analyzing your specific biometrics, your lifestyle, blood markers, even your genetic profile to spot early signs of accelerated aging or specific risks. Then, we could prescribe really targeted exercise plans, the right intensity, the right type, to proactively counter those risks before they lead to problems like cognitive decline.
That's the future, personalized exercise prescriptions based on your unique biology.
Potentially, yes. Of course we need more research. We need those long-term studies in diverse groups. We need to really nail down the optimal intensity, duration, frequency for different people and validate these personalized approaches. But the direction seems clear.
So, wrapping this all up,
Right.
this deep dive into the Lancet review really underscores something profound, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It confirms what maybe we suspected, but often underestimate. Exercise isn't just vanity or general fitness. It's a deep, multi-layered neuroprotective strategy.
Working at all these levels, cellular, molecular, systemic, to actively guard your brain against the effects of aging,
From boosting blood flow and fighting that inflammaging
to actually helping generate new brain cells and unleashing that molecular elixir, those Exerkines.
It seems even small, consistent efforts, especially intense ones, can make a huge difference. It really speaks to the body's incredible capacity for resilience and self-repair.
It's truly remarkable.
So, knowing all this, especially that insight about short bursts of high-intensity activity potentially being more effective than hours of gentler movement, how might you rethink your own daily or weekly routine?
Yeah, what small but powerful doses of movement could you weave into your week, starting today, to begin building that cognitive reserve and, maybe outsmart accelerated brain aging?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
If you found these insights as compelling as we did, please subscribe to What the Study Says, and maybe share this deep dive with friends and family. Your support is what helps us bring more crucial research like this directly to you.